Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Charlotte and today we're going to be talking about emotional dysregulation. So you're probably thinking, hey girly pop, why are you still in bed? Why do you look like shit today? The reason for that is I did make my bed, got up and I went to work. Homies, I'm not doing so good. I spent some of my shift yesterday crying. I came home and cried, and yeah, I got up, went to work today, and it lasted about 2 hours, if that. All it took was somebody to be like, are you alright? I feel a little bit better now. I'm at home and I'm in my safe space and I can just, I don't know, decompress a little bit. I think being in a space that was starting to get noisy when I wasn't in a particularly good headspace was not the environment that I needed to be in. I needed to be somewhere nice and comfortable and in a space where I could just deal with how I was feeling, because it was not it trying to deal with it at work. So I'm at home and I've had a little bit of a lay down. I have had something to eat, which, you know, props to me for doing that, because I find it really difficult to eat when I'm not feeling great. Yeah, once again, I'm in the throes of it and I figured, hey, let's talk about it while it's happening. So that's what I'm gonna do. So as usual, this Let's Talk video is completely unscripted. I feel like it's probably the most organic and best way for me to talk about these topics, because that's how my brain works. If this is the first time that you're here on my channel, hello, I'm Charlotte. Pretty sure I'm ADHD and autistic. I am waiting for an assessment and I'm still dealing with shit while I'm waiting to be assessed. Okay, so what is emotional dysregulation? So it's a term that's used to describe like an emotional response that's poorly regulated and doesn't fall within the expectations, let's say, of like a normal emotional response. Which for me personally, I'm like, define normal. Define normal. I find for myself, my highs are very high and my lows are incredibly low. And I think if doctors in the UK were in a position where they are readily giving out diagnoses and not just labeling you as somebody with anxiety and depression, I probably would have ended up with either a borderline diagnosis or bipolar, because like I say, my highs are extremely high and my lows are extremely low. It can be, while I don't feel like my mania is particularly a problem, although having looked at maybe some of my spending recently and, you know, impulsivity and that kind of thing, maybe it is. It's, I don't know, I feel like in the UK, because obviously that's where I live, I don't think doctors like to send you off to a psychiatrist or like get an actual answer or a diagnosis if they can help it. And I don't know whether that's to do with like saving money or whether that's to do with just wanting to keep like the statistics down. So unless you're actively harming yourself in a physical way or making actions and concrete plans to departure early. I know that there is a lot of crossover between the symptoms for being borderline and bipolar and ADHD and autism. I feel like a lot of the time alexithymia, which I've talked about in a previous video, there is a link up in that corner, or is it this corner? I'm not sure. Up in this corner, that will take you to that video if you're interested in what that's about and my experiences with it. I don't always know what I'm feeling, and sometimes the reactions and responses that I have to the emotions are sometimes the extreme. I don't just get a little bit sad. It's like the world is ending, the world is caving in on me when I'm at a low point, and there's not really anything that I can do other than ride it out. I feel fortunate that I'm in a position where I don't feel like taking that early exit is something that I necessarily want to do, but that doesn't stop the fact that my brain's response to a minor inconvenience is, well, you should probably just be easier if you were dead or not here, which I think if you're not used to dealing with those kind of feelings without being actively wanting to cut things short can be quite a strange and like scary thing to hear. But I don't know, that's just how I live my life when I'm going through the low points, and it's just a case of acknowledging, okay, well, that's how I'm feeling right now. I've got washing up to do. Do you know what I mean? Like I've dealt with it for so long now that it does, in a way, I feel, get a bit easier to deal with it, because I know, okay, I'm having an emotional dysregulation episode, and while it doesn't necessarily mean that it's getting easier, I mean, I guess it's more manageable because I know why I'm feeling like that. My mood swings can be pretty dramatic as well, and sometimes it can be hard to distinguish whether it's because I'm hormonal or whether that's just how I'm feeling. Like, I literally walked into work today feeling fine. I woke up being like, oh, I don't really want to go to work today, but I didn't feel particularly sad. Like, that wasn't the reason I didn't want to go to work. I just didn't want to go to work today because I was comfortable in my bed. And I got up and I walked to work, and I've got a song that I'm listening to a lot at the moment that just I really like, and it's very upbeat and it makes me very happy. So I was basically dancing internally on my way to work this morning, and I felt fine until I wasn't. And it's not even as if anything happened to trigger me into feeling like that. Sometimes it's almost like a switch has flipped, and suddenly I'm sad, and I'm suddenly inconsolable, and I can't stop crying, and I keep having these thoughts about not wanting to be here, and if I wasn't here I wouldn't have to deal with it. And like I say, it's not a case that that's necessarily something I want to do, I have made any plans for, or am acting in ways where people should be concerned, but dealing with those thoughts can be a lot sometimes, and can be a little bit overwhelming, particularly when I'm in a space that's quite overwhelming and making me feel overstimulated and there's no escape from. So I literally, mid crying, pulled over one of my supervisors and I was like, I cannot do this today. He already knew that I'd had like a little outburst yesterday, and I was like, I don't think I can do this today. I thought I was going to be able to hold it together, but I can't. And he was like, it's fine, go home, go and rest up. It's a difficult one, because where do you draw the line? I don't feel like I ever experience like the normal levels of just being a little bit sad. I'm either absolutely in the throes of it, I am way down, or I'm having the best time of my life, and the in-between is don't really know how I'm feeling. My emotions, and this is again where alexithymia comes into it, I don't necessarily know or am able to explain what I'm feeling, but it is one of the bad feelings, or it's one of the good feelings, or it's just a state of confusion, honestly, in terms of how I'm feeling. Now, I'm medicated for my mental health. I take venlafaxine, and about a month or so ago I had my meds increased. I don't know whether that dose is now working for me, and I wonder whether it's because, and I've had this conversation with my doctor, because I was like, I don't think what we're dealing with is anxiety and depression, my dude. I think I am struggling with the symptoms that come along with being an ADHD individual. And he just refers to me as somebody with ADHD, and he was like, yeah, I think we need to medicate you for ADHD, but until such time as I can have my assessment and get an official diagnosis by someone who's able to diagnose me, I can't have medication. So I'm just playing the waiting game of trying to not fuck up my life in the meantime. So that means medicating with what's available to me, even if it's perhaps not the best course of treatment. And even my doctor acknowledges that. It's just, I don't know, the system is so flawed, and it's not the NHS's fault because they're underfunded and understaffed, and given what they have available to them, they do a really, really great job. But, you know, there are people who can't afford to go private, who don't have that accessible to them, and I know people are going to be like, what about Psychiatry UK? It's different all over the country. There's nothing available in Norfolk currently, because I have spoken to my doctors about this. I've just got to play the waiting game based on the conversations that we've had. Before I knew what emotional dysregulation was and how it related to me as somebody who is suspected to have ADHD and or autism, like thinking back to like my childhood and like my sensitivity and the outbursts that I would have when I felt like not good, I don't know how there wasn't any intervention any sooner, particularly in regard to rejection sensitivity disorder, which is something that I want to do a video on entirely, like on its own, like it's its own topic, and I have a lot to say about that. But yeah, feeling rejected often leads to these emotional dysregulation or dysregulated emotional outbursts, which I can imagine for the people around me is quite draining, because I know how I've acted in the past because of emotional dysregulation, and it makes me feel like a horrible person. I have done and I have said things that with a level head on my shoulders I would not have wanted to do or say, and quite frankly some of my outbursts that I've had I'm embarrassed about still. Yeah, I've said some horrible things in the heat of the moment, and unfortunately that's genuinely how I was feeling at the time, because like the overwhelming wave of emotion I'd got had led me to that point. And I'm not trying to make excuses for things that I've done or that I've said in my past, but like now that I'm aware of this as a phenomenon and how it relates to neurodivergency, it makes sense. And in knowing more about it and understanding more about it and being aware of when my feelings are dysregulated, I can keep in better check of them. I'm like, we might be overreacting here, we might be having an outburst here. And that's not to say that that doesn't still happen, but I feel like I manage those emotions a little bit better now that I have a better understanding of them. And that's why I think it is so important for people to actually get a diagnosis for a start, and two, to have the education and the understanding about what these like neurotypes actually mean and what they entail. Because, you know, obviously after an outburst I'd feel awful about it, like a particularly negative one, shall we say. Like if I've done and said something to a partner before and I feel fucking awful about it, I've been able to like look at similar situations now where instead of blowing up and reacting in a way that's completely inappropriate, I can catch myself before it gets to that, and I will say, I need to remove myself from the situation before I do or say something I am going to regret. I need to be by myself. And like having the ability to advocate for yourself like that is one of the things I think that has changed my life in the last couple of years, but that's only come with the understanding of how my brain works and what makes my experiences to neurotypical people different. So there is also a theory as well that emotional dysregulation is in a way like a learned behaviour, in that if you've had a parent that also is emotionally dysregulated, that can have an impact. And I don't know, I feel like it's a difficult one, because what is, like, there's always going to be the nature versus nurture argument, but then when you're growing up, your environment is your parents, and the stuff that you inherit comes from your parents. So really, it's, to put it bluntly, their fault either way. But I do think that there are neurodivergencies among my parents, and because they weren't aware of the things that come along and are symptoms and indicators, let's say, of neurodivergency, it was never checked or never something that they've amended their behaviours on. Whereas because I've got a better understanding, of it. I don't know, I'm a little bit more self-aware. I don't want to sound like a dick when I say that, because like my parents were just doing their best with the tools and the resources that they had, but I guess you can still be critical of those kinds of things. But I think, yeah, like growing up around people that weren't able to regulate their emotions and deal with them in a constructive manner definitely had an impact on me. And whether that's an impact in not being able to regulate my own emotions, or as a result of trauma from that, from like my caregivers not being able to regulate their emotions, and the impact that that had on me and my development, it's hard to say. It's a mixed bag, I guess. So emotional dysregulation can also have impacts on things like how well you're able to sleep, aside from like the obvious social and workplace issues that you might face. People with emotional dysregulation can be more prone to substance abuse, whether that is through alcohol or other drugs and medication, as a way of coping and to like numb the emotions that they're feeling. I know from experience, when I was younger, I definitely used alcohol as a way to not feel what I was feeling, and in most cases that didn't pan out particularly well, because it nearly always ended up as like an argument or to more emotional dysregulation, because, you know, when you're not thinking clearly, that doesn't help matters. So the way that most emotional dysregulation is treated is with medication. So if you're ADHD, it's with stimulants. If you've got depression, it's antidepressants. If you're having psychotic episodes, it's with antipsychotic. Like I said earlier, I just kind of feel like I am being treated with the wrong stuff at the moment, and that is because I don't have my official ADHD diagnosis yet. So until such time, I'm basically being medicated with medication that is not right for me, and I'm pretty confident in that it's not right for me, because I've only had my dose increased for about a month and we're back where we were again. Other treatments, it's kind of funny because the main treatment for emotional dysregulation is DBT, which is dialectical behavioural therapy. I have never been offered this. I've been offered CBT. I am on a wait list for CBT. That is potentially looking like at least a 6-week wait for me to even get started. And when I spoke to the lady from the wellbeing service, she was like, so we're gonna get you into a routine. And I'm like, bestie, I've tried that. I constantly am trying to get myself into a routine. That's my whole life is trying to get into a routine and sticking to it. And she was like, oh well, you know, if there's something that you want to do and you don't feel like doing it on the day, you've got to like schedule it in, you have to make yourself do it. Bestie, there's a real good chance that what's going up here is ADHD, and if you try and get me to do something that I do not want to do, it's not gonna happen. If I'm not in the mood to do crochet, or if I'm not in the mood to paint, I'm not gonna do it. It was that or group therapy. So basically, I'm on the wrong medication. I'm having the wrong treatment for it. I have basically got to jump through a load of hoops that I know aren't going to work for me before I can get the treatment that is recommended. Man, it's just a real messed up system, and this has gone off on a bit of a tangent, in all honesty. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now with my experiences with emotional dysregulation. I'm trying to remove myself from situations before I have an emotional reaction, and when I do, I just gotta take care of myself. And yeah, just try and listen to your body, try and listen to your brain. It's tough, it's really tough, and if you're going through something similar, just know that you're not in it alone. There are other people that understand what it's like and how it feels, and you know, your brain's just wired differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. Look at me trying to give myself a pep talk. You just have to give yourself the time and space to accommodate, and that's okay. So I'm gonna leave that video here. It's got quite long. I don't want it to be like a massive video, but I think there's plenty of stuff that I've talked about. Just look after yourself, take care of your needs, get a hot drink, get under a blanket and watch something that's gonna make you feel better, and just ride it out until it passes. That's what I'm gonna do today. That's what I'm doing. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you've got to the end of this video. Drop me a yellow heart because it's my favourite emoji. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hopefully something a little bit cheerier.